Hello, my name is Ryan Carter. I'm one of the instructors at the Porch Music Store, and my specialty happens to be the woodwind family. And one of the key factors of playing a woodwind is having a reed that works for you. This is a mystery that has baffled many an amazing player over the past many years, and I'm going to explain to you the best I can how to know what reeds you want, how to fix them if they're not quite working for you, and generally just how they work. So, for those of you that have never touched a woodwind before, the reed is this thing right there. It's typically made of wood, but mine happens to be synthetic because I am lazy and cheap. That's a joke. I'm not lazy nor cheap, I promise. So what happens is whenever you blow through the instrument, the reed will begin to vibrate and produce sound that goes through the entire horn, like this. And that's how we get our sound. So the reed is directly responsible for a lot of what creates our tone and all the colors, so we can paint with all the colors of the wind if you're a Pocahontas fan. So a lot of how we decide what we want is the type of reed that we use. Now what I'm going to tell you applies to both the clarinet and the saxophone specifically. So if you're seeing me play a saxophone wearing like, I'm a clarinet player, don't worry, I've got you too. So the type of reed is important. There are 2.5 types of reed that I'm going to mention. There is a classical reed. That's going to be for your ensemble playing like in a band, or if you see any of the military bands out on performances, that's going to be the type of stuff that they use. There are jazz reeds. I think it's pretty self-explanatory what you would use those for. And the other one, it's kind of an in-between. You can use it for both, and those are synthetic reeds, like what I use. They're pretty versatile. You can use them for either or, so it's up to the player, but my recommendation is always a good cane reed, the wooden ones like this, which you're going to find in the 2 boxes that I showed you before. Now, on the box, there's some information that's important for you to know. The number on the very top represents the power of the reed. So, for example, this one is a 3.5. They usually range from 1 to 5. So 1 is a very soft reed, very bendable, very bright. 5 is extremely hard and very dark and unbendable. So if you're a beginning player, you're going to want something on the lower side, that way it's softer, easier to bend, vibrates easier, and thus easier to play. Eventually, once your mouth starts to get used to that feeling, it's going to callous up a little bit and you're going to need something harder to sustain your playing. That's when the numbers are going to start moving higher and higher. A beginner usually starts between a 2 and a 2.5. A high schooler would standardly arrive around a 3, and as you begin to get more professional, you're going to get around a 3.5 or a 4. But that's not always true. Reeds are kind of like pants. It's not always one size fits all. Everyone wears them a little bit differently, so it's ultimately a preference. Now, there are a couple ways that we can cheat the reed, and I am going to show you one of them. Sometimes you'll be playing and you have a reed that's been working for you really well, but suddenly it's getting kind of bright and starting to sound a little bit like this whenever you play it. So what you want to do is you loosen up the ligature, the thing holding on the reed to the mouthpiece. You take your reed, and if it's starting to sound a little bright like that, you're just going to push it higher up, just a smidge. That way the reed is sticking up higher. What that'll do is that'll move the hard part of the reed closer to where you're making the sound, and it'll make it darker again. It doesn't always work if the reed is really, really dead, but in a quick fix situation, that will work. On the other hand, if you're playing a reed and it sounds just really dark and dull and you need a little more vibrance in it, or maybe you're playing it and it's a little bit too hard to make a noise on, you just do the opposite. So you take it and you just move it downward. That way you can see more of the mouthpiece on top if you're looking past the reed. And what that'll do is that'll brighten it up. It'll make it easier to play because you're moving the softer part of the reed closer to where you're making the sound. And that, my friends, is how you cheat a reed without having to take a knife to it. Naturally, if you have a wooden one, not a synthetic one like mine, you can file them down and get the same effect. So if it's a little dark, a little hard to play, you can file it a little bit and you can make it lighter, brighter, and easier to play. If it's a little bright and you would like it to be a little darker, that's when you're going to need to use this trick, because you can take wood off, but you can't put it back on. So if you're ever going to take a sharp object to your reed, think carefully, and have someone responsible supervise you. So ultimately, that is everything I have for you for reeds. If you have any other questions about them, looking for different brands, recommendations, different models of reeds, you can always come in and see me in the store. You can give us a call. You can find all of our information on our Facebook page or our website, and I hope to see you in here soon.